Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the SOTA Pop podcast. My name is Kiya Williams, and I'm here with some very special guests, some that you've known before and some that you haven't. Can I get a hi, guys?
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
I am here with some of the directors from Chain of Fools and, like, the person putting it all together. I don't know what your official title would be, like, producer or?
Executive
Producer, Bryan McHenry. Chain of Fools is a film, a feature-length film, to be exact, an actual movie being made here at UNA. And before we talk about all the fun things that are movie-related and everything, we have to have a moment of a fresh squeeze. I sadly also don't have lemonade this week. I know, boo, tomatoes. I'm an awful person. We do have wonderful water, not sponsored by any brand at all. Definitely not Dasani. What? Ooh. That is what we're drinking this week, is water, because it's so good for you. And you can add your own mix to make lemonade. I don't have that, but we do have water. However, we still have a playlist called Fresh Squeeze where you can go listen to music that we choose while we drink things. So, what music has everybody been listening to this week?
I guess I've been listening to a lot from this band called the Weebies. It's just like sad music. I don't know why. I'm a pretty happy person, but I've been listening to a lot of songs by the Weebies. There's a song called "The World Spins Madly On" that I've been listening to a lot of. Yeah.
I listen to a lot of The Weeknd. I'm a big Weeknd fan. My favorite song is The Hills. That's what I've been jamming to lately.
I am a big believer in shuffling playlists, and that's where I stand. But I think lately I've been listening to a lot of classical by this one Argentinian composer whose name is Astor Piazzolla.
Ooh.
Yes.
And
Tangos.
yeah, and I suppose that and a little bit of the Oh Hellos.
Oh, I love the Oh Hellos. They're really good. This week I've been listening to a lot of Ricky Montgomery. He came out with a new album and he's on tour currently. And I can't go see him, sadly, because he's not going anywhere near me. And the one time that he was near me sold out before I had a chance to buy tickets. So I'm very upset about that.
Oh, goodness, I'm such a cliche. I'm the same way. I do the shuffle, so I never know what's going to come up next. But the last thing that I remember coming into my headphones was the musical Chicago.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. That's a good choice. That's a very, very good choice. Before I talk to, like, all the directors, I want to take a minute and talk to McHenry, because, like, this is your first time on the podcast, and so we got to get to know you first before we talk about, Chain of Fools. So how did you end up here at UNA?
Well, my family lived here. My sister married a guy who was from here, and so when they started having kids, my parents moved down here, and I was coming to visit Christmas and summers and all that kind of stuff. So I knew Florence for 10 or 15 years before I actually moved here.
Oh, okay. Well, what got you into, like, directing and teaching here and all the fun things?
Well, directing was kind of a weird path. I actually have 3 different degrees. I have 2 degrees in music. I was going to be a band director first, so I have a bachelor's in music ed, and then I was an opera singer for a short while. And I started directing shows that I was singing in, and I loved that. And this was the early, middle 90s, and this was when digital video was just starting to come out. And so I'd also been really good with computers, and I loved directing, and I could do it even if I had a cold, which I could not do as an opera singer. And so I decided to go to film school.
You're just a man of many talents, huh? You couldn't pick anything. I like that. I like that you can be very versatile. When it came to, like, choosing, like, band and choir, like, how did you get in those paths?
I had a really good elementary school music education. My father taught at the University of Memphis, and so there's a campus school there for 1st through 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And our music teacher was just really good, and so that was a positive experience. So when I went to junior high, I was ready to start some serious music. Our school, the way it was set up, we had sort of a choice because choir and band met at the same time, and so you had to decide early on. And I chose band to start with, but I still would sing off and on, and I was in the musicals my senior year, so I was Snoopy in Snoopy my senior year.
I love that. That's adorable. So let's talk about Chain of Fools. Yeah. this is when I first heard the idea, I was very curious on how this works. Can you explain to everybody like what the idea of Chain of Fools is?
Yes. So Mike and I, we make films with the students every semester. There's budget money set aside for that. We make our own stuff and we use the students as crew, sometimes acting in the films. But the difficulty with that is that it doesn't offer a lot of opportunities. There's maybe 2 or 3 folks that are able to do things, DP, sound, that kind of thing. And I was looking for ways to try to involve more people. And then Abigail did the folklore project when she first came, and I loved that.
Folklore was a devised piece where all the students worked together to create a play.
Yeah, so the guys, they all came up with the story and to create that. And I thought, that's a great idea. I think we can do that. And so the basic premise for this was that everybody had to present a 5-page scene to sort of audition to be in the piece. They gave that to me, and then once we selected folks to be in the project, we would write a second scene where they used one of their characters and one of somebody else's characters.
Okay.
And so the story sort of becomes a chain of stories. And then the third scene would be either you could go back to your original character, or you could write for another character in the story and one of yours. So it was a way of connecting all the. It ends up being something like a Robert Altman film. So he was famous for movies like Nashville and Shortcuts, where he has a huge cast of characters, and they would do a lot of improv. And then in the editing room, he would sort of cut things down and find stories in all the material. And so that's sort of what we're doing.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
When you said like you set money aside, like is there certain like funds that you put for, certain grants that you apply for, or was it?
For this, we're just using the normal money that's set aside for our spring production. So last year, I made a short film that folks crewed on, and I brought actors in, and so we had money for that. This is the same budget, basically. I'm just using it on these guys.
What we love. Okay, well, let's bring in some of the directors that are working on it. You know some of them. We got Trevor, we got Davis, we got Lily. Can I get a hi from everybody?
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
So for everyone who hasn't listened to some of the previous episodes, can we get like your names, like what's your major, and why you're here at UNA?
So I'm Trevor Peck. What else am I supposed to say?
Major.
Oh, major. Yeah. Well, I'm a CAT major. I'm majoring in film production. And came to UNA, and originally I was doing psychology, but I had done film stuff in the past, and so when I realized I didn't like psych, I switched back. Well, I tried out a couple of film classes, and I was like, this is what I need to be doing, and so ever since then I've been doing film projects at UNA, and I even took up acting a little bit, which has been fun, and so anytime the CAT department's doing something, I look into it and I'm like, sign me up for it.
My name is Davis. I'm also a film production major. The reason I'm here at UNA is I was originally going to be a communications major, and then I was like, I'm allowed to be creative, so I decided I wanted to be a theater major. And after looking at a bunch of colleges where I lived that I didn't really like that much, I saw UNA, and I was interested by their theater program and also the film program, which is something that I had never really thought about before. So I enrolled under a film production student, and fortunately I've been able to do both, a little bit of acting, a little bit of film, and I love it.
Cool.
My name is Lily Mashburn, and I am also a CAT major with a film production concentration here at UNA. I spent 2 years at UNA as an undecided student, actually, because I had no idea where I wanted to go. And but I decided to take a film course kind of on a whim because growing up, I used to take a lot of photos and enter them in the county fair, and I also helped my church out with their live stream. And so I decided to take that class on a whim, and I really I liked it, and I thought maybe I could go somewhere with it. So that's how I ended up where I am now.
Was that my production class?
Yes, it was.
That was your first. Oh, excellent.
Since all of you have basically dabbled in both like acting and film, do you have a preferred medium for one or the other, or? Or you just like whatever the wind blows?
I don't know. It's so hard because there are so many parts about film that are like really exciting, but then there are so many parts that are really hard, and I don't know. I mean I'm so new to acting, so it's still kind of exciting to me, and in some ways I feel like acting is more consistent. I'll stick with film for right now because I really just like making projects, but there are some parts of film that are really really exciting and really fun. But then there are like the really kind of harder, like embarrassing parts where you have to like actually take what you made and show it to people, and that can be really hard. Because that doesn't just come down, because I feel like with acting it's just what you're kind of willing to do, and whereas it's film, it's like what you're capable of doing, and a lot of the times the ideas that you have in your mind aren't like reflective of like what you can actually do. And so sometimes you've got these really cool ideas and then you try to do them and they don't work out because of your skill level or the resources you have available or whatever. Oh, also you have to be like really organized when you're a filmmaker. Oh, and that's so hard. I'm so terrible at it. You have to like be prepared for like everything, and then at least one thing goes wrong in every film set and you have to like work around that. And so I don't know, it's hard because I like when projects come together, and so I really like that aspect of filmmaking. I don't know, I kind of didn't really answer the question at all.
No, you're good.
I like both.
No,
I
liking
really
both
do.
is great.
Speaking of showing things to people, Trevor has a film showing in the George Lindsay Film Festival.
Oh, I do,
Ooh.
yeah.
George Lindsay Film Festival is a film festival that's put on by UNA for like a billion years. I don't even know how long.
Exactly. I think it's the 1 billionth year this year.
Yeah, actually it is. George Lindsay himself, he's an actor, went here to UNA, and we have it in honoring his memory. But no, you guys?
Yeah, so as far as I think the production process go, I'm more of a fan of like the film part of the production process. It's like like the cinematography, the sound design. I'm really into sound design. As far as the acting part goes, like if I'm acting in something, I like acting in theater because I'm not a subtle person, and film acting can be really really subtle, like a lot less than stage acting can. So it's much easier for me and much more comfortable for me to get out on a stage and like be silly for like 2 hours rather than like sort of hold myself back, like as far as like my emotions and my feelings go, because like you can tell what I'm thinking. Like you look at my face, you can tell what I'm thinking. So I'm a very like animated person.
Yeah.
I think there are strengths and weaknesses in both, and I think, on one hand, you can look at film production and you can say, well, that takes a lot of work, that takes a lot of planning, that takes a lot of getting people to the right place to do things. But theater is the same way. It just takes like a different path to get there. As far as acting goes, I haven't acted in many films yet. But you can hit me up if you want me to. I'm sort of like Davis on this. It's for me personally, it's easier to get up on a stage and just let all of those like emotions just come out. Like you can move your arms like super wild. You can like light up your face. You can be loud. And on film, that's not always the case. On film, you can see things that you cannot see on theater, like stages, and there's just so many differences. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know. I can't choose. I like them both.
You don't have to choose. I just wanted to know, like, is there one that you prefer? It's fine. You don't have to choose. Some people like both. Because my follow-up question for that is, like, does being an actor influence how you direct? Because I know some directors, like, never act at all. So does that change how you look at directing or producing?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I've kind of noticed, with some of the student film sets at UNA, and this is nothing against other student directors, but this is kind of coming from, I guess, me trying out acting and having friends that are actors, but there's sometimes when the director kind of gets so focused on how the shot is going to look that they forget to tell their actors what to do, and then so they're talking with their cameraman and with their sound person, and, they're getting the boom line, they're getting the lighting right. They'll be like, all right, we're ready for a take, and then the actor will be like, what am I supposed to do? And then the director kind of has to be like, oh, well, can you just do this? And
Faster, funnier.
yeah, faster, funnier, whatever. And so I've really tried to find a balance between that. And another thing I noticed is kind of like off topic. It's like the main thing to like help with this problem is just having a good team of people who are qualified, who kind of know what you want, and so you can, as a director, you can just focus more on the actors, because I think that's the most important part of filmmaking, is the people who are actually going to be in it, regardless of what it looks like. And so I try not to give actors too many super long takes where they have to know a bunch of lines. I try to help actors out, a little bit. So that's kind of how it's influenced me.
Sort of the same thing as Trevor. I think that directing films and acting, both on stage and film, and when I direct something, it sort of made me treat actors with a lot more respect. Not that I wasn't treating them, like trying to treat them with respect in the first place, but sort of in a way that is like made me think more accommodating towards them, because it's hard being an actor. Like, that is not an easy thing. Like, we have a whole major for it. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, and it takes a lot of extremely talented people to step into a scene and get in front of a camera and be a completely different person over and over and over again sometimes. And I like doing that process, because I've acted in films before, not really extensively, but being a part of that process, both behind and in front of a camera, has just really made me respect the people who do it and appreciate them so much more. And when I'm creating my sets and when I'm like planning out the days, I always like to think about like, what can we do for our actors to not just make it feel like the crew's dragging them from place to place, from scene to scene. Because I'm shooting tomorrow, for example. We have 3 locations, and these actors are going to be tired by the end of the day. That's just how it is, So you have to think, especially on long days like that, you have to think about how you can help your actors out the best you can, because they are such important people on your film set. And sometimes some people don't even realize that. And now, the people who don't realize that, that's really frustrating, I think, to me, when people are just like, they're just actors, just get in front of the camera, just do it, Anyway.
Yeah, no, valid points.
I think that's totally like correct, because there's so many moments where I've been on film sets where the director is just like going at like, they're trying to make the day, they're just going through the schedule, and they're not really directing their actors. And as I have been an actor, it's kind of like a window that opens. You get to see, I'd say you get to see what it's like, kind of what you're looking for as an actor. You want the director to tell you to do something, in a certain way, or as if something was happening. And I feel like in my not so vast experience as an actor, I feel like it's kind of opened my mind and allowed me to think of the ways in which I can tell my actors now to do things easier, to help them better understand what I'm wanting the finished product to look like, so they can do their job easier.
No, that's all of these are like valid points. That don't feel ashamed at any of them.
Can I actually add something to that?
Go.
I think, because I remembered something that being an actor has kind of helped me with directing, is like the way that directors have talked to me, to kind of get a performance out of me. I feel like I use that to get things out of actors, because I feel like beforehand I was a little bit more, micromanagey with the actors, and I would be looking for a very specific type of performance. But I think that like as I've acted and as I've kind of realized that being an actor is like giving your own interpretation of like an emotion, like portraying like the Trevor version of sadness or the Trevor version of happiness, that it's far more useful to, if you're looking for some kind of an emotion out of an actor, to say like, okay, to tell them, rather than saying like, all right, you need to be crying or you need to be doing exactly this. I think it's more useful, and I've learned, it's easier for you to say, okay, this is what your character is feeling in this moment, and how would you interpret that? And so it's also kind of helped me be less picky about performances as well, because as long as I see that they're portraying the emotions in a way that feels true to them, it's helped my performances that I've gotten out of actors that I've directed be more genuine.
Love. All of these are valid reasons, because I feel like a lot of times I talk to directors and they're like, no, they're just there to say words. And I'm like, I feel like y'all would have fun opinions on that. Let's stop talking about actors for a moment and talk about you guys and like what you chose to do, as much as you're allowed to tell me. But like, what was your process like coming in, like just hearing the idea of Chain of Fools? Like,
I had no idea what it was going to be about. I knew that it was called Chain of Fools, and I knew that if you wanted to have a creative position in it, you needed to write a scene. And so I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if we were going to be using any of the scenes that we're writing. I think at some point somebody had told me that they were going to be taking like all of the scenes that we've written and trying to combine them in some way. And I was like, this is going to be a really weird film.
It may still be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a really weird film. I thought they were going to combine it in a much more, I thought they were going to smash it closer together, kind of like disassemble all the parts that we had done and then put it into something with like a smaller cast, but, they were taking all of our stories and they were putting them next to each other. So it was like this big ensemble thing, and so I had no idea, but I knew I wanted to be part of it.
All bets are off in post-production.
Oh, yeah,
who
of
knows
course.
what's going to happen to it once it's shot?
Who knows?
So,
So when I heard about it, I as part of my job, I work pretty closely with Mike and Brian, so I sort of heard whispers about it as it was being announced, but I was like Trevor, I didn't really know for sure what it was about. I just knew that it was going to be a collection of small works combined into something much larger. And I'm not sure how much we're allowed to say, but I'm really a fan of how it's shaping out, and I think this has potential to be an insanely creative and collaborative project that I'm really happy with the progress on so far.
I'm excited for it too. When I first heard of Chain of Fools, I also did not know exactly what it was going to be, and I spent my time thinking about it, and then I submitted my screenplay, and now it's sort of snowballed into this job that I have to do now. So,
Yeah.
But it's honestly, when we first sat down for that first meeting in January, it was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and I'm relatively new to this major and this department, and so to suddenly be thrown into things is kind of scary, but I think in the long run it's shaping up to be something that I think will be really, really interesting, and I'm so happy that I have this chance. So
everybody's at a very different skill level, but everybody's stepping up for sure.
Yeah.
for like the scripts, did you guys have something like already pre-written that you kind of like forgot about? They're like, oh, I'll just try to turn this in, or like, did you write something new, or?
This was one of the first scripts that I have written.
Oh. Okay.
I didn't know for sure what I wanted to write going into it. I had this idea for a script for a really, really long time. I like to write sort of based off of true events, not word for word, thought for thought, like what happens in my life, but I like to take, funny things that have happened to me and sort of
Heavily inspired by.
spiral into this creative idea. And that's what I did for this. I took something that sincerely happened to me and one of my friends, and I swapped the names around, and that is the script now. So there we go.
Okay, so now everybody's going to want to know who it is.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's
We'll have to wait to see.
That's gossip.
The
That's
mystique
gossip.
that surrounds the film.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took a script that I already written, but last semester I was in a short screenplay class, and I wrote a script, for that class, and my teacher, Michael Curtis Johnson, loved it, and he was like, "Are you going to submit that script to Chain of Fools?" And I was like, maybe I will, but I was like, but it doesn't fill all the requirements, because the requirements were like, it has to be 5 pages, it has to take place in one location, and it has to have 2 characters. And like my script, was like 2 pages, and it had 3 characters, and it took place in like multiple locations. And so I took one element of that script, and I switched it around, and I wrote something different, and I turned it in, like on the last possible, a little bit later. Actually, I turned it in at like 3 a.m. Like a couple of hours passed.
Was that Emmett? Was Emmett the element?
Yeah, totally.
I have no clue what that means, but okay.
You will. You'll find out.
Have you read the the characters you can audition for?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. I thought Emmett was like a secret thing that I wasn't supposed to know about. That was like a code word or something.
no.
Okay. We're good. That's fine.
Do the viewers know who Emmett is?
I don't think so.
There is a
There's a
mime
mime. There's a mime in the script.
throughout the script.
Throughout the script.
Sort of
We've
like
been infected.
an omnipresence throughout the script.
He may not be a secret, but he is an enigma.
So a virus is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
When it comes to like working on this production, you're a lot of times people will just do one thing, like a screenwriter, or they'll direct, or they'll do sound, or is there a certain part of the process that you're looking forward to more, or?
My favorite part is already hit. I like the writing process. We're not necessarily done with the writing process, but that's always my favorite part. I like creating the stories, A small part of me is like, who cares how they're shot? I just want to make the stories. But it is really creatively fulfilling to see something that you've written and to see something that you've put a lot of heart into and worked really, really hard on sort of come to life in that way. Like, it's almost surreal to think that, like, tomorrow night I'm about to go shoot something that I wrote, and, like, this is, like, a real thing that happened to me. So, like, in a way, it's, like, sort of reliving a little bit through your writing and through your directing. It's just really cool. It's just creative process means something different for everybody. That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, I love the writing process. It's probably my favorite process because it's so free, it's so creative. You're in charge of the direction, and also you don't have to rely on anybody. In terms of things that I'm excited about for the film, I'm also really excited for directing, but kind of because I want to get better at directing, because I have a terrible habit of like doing all of the responsibilities on a film set, by myself, and I really need to get better at that. I need to get better at like giving jobs to other people. But yeah, I love the writing process, but I'm looking forward to directing because I also just love, seeing a project come together. And like another part of that is that as you're filming and as you're creating a film, I feel like the project kind of becomes its own thing, and it becomes, a little bit different from what you wrote, which isn't a bad thing. And so I'm interested to see, as I shoot the rest of my scenes, I'm interested to see what they turn into.
It's sort of 3 different stages. You write one thing, you shoot a second thing, and then what ends up on screen is a totally different third thing.
Yeah. It's like at that point you kind of don't completely own it. It's its own thing.
I enjoy the writing process. I'm looking forward to loving the writing process more than I do right now. Right now, I'm mostly looking forward to being on set and working with people to make something. That's what really gets me going. Is being on set. You can feel. I don't know. You can kind of. It's like a taste of the finished product. That's not exactly where it's going to wind up in the end, but when you're there with people who are all. We've got a lot of really talented people in the department. When you're there with them, and you're making what will once be like on screen shown to people, that's kind of, like David said, it's kind of surreal, and it's, I don't know, that's the fun part of the process for me. So
All of us is collaborating, and like you mentioned, like post-production. how does it feel knowing like you're putting all your trust into like this one editor, which is just Grayson? But you know,
Well, no, wait, it's not just Grayson.
it's not just Grayson. I knew Grayson was one of the
Grayson
editors.
is one of the editors.
Oh, there's more than one. Okay, I was just told.
I'm one of the other editors.
Okay, okay. But
Davis
like,
might be doing some
Yeah.
editing. I'm the supervising editor, so I may be doing some editing.
I didn't know. I was told Grayson was
No,
editing.
it's okay.
No one told me else.
The way that we think it's going to happen right now is we all do plan to have some, supervision over our initial cuts. Obviously, Grayson and Brian are the ones we'll go to in the end for the final delivery, and Trevor. And Trevor, yes. But all of the directors are sort of going to get to have this final say, not final say, but like the initial vision will be communicated in those rough cuts. So that's another part I think I'm kind of looking forward to is like putting your trust in an editor, because a lot of student films that are shot here, director, writer, editor, sometimes are the same person. So to sort of put your trust into another person behind the computer working with your footage, that's something that's new for me, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing, I think.
It's an important learning step as well, because it is about, well, there are lots of things to learn. If you are working with the editor directly, it's about communicating what you want to them as opposed to doing it yourself. So that's a whole nother process. But there's also, the editor will have the objectivity because it's not their scene. They didn't write it and they didn't shoot it. So they can look maybe at problems that are there and have ways to solve them, or ways to use the footage that you never thought of, right? It was not your plan. And so hopefully there will be, the creativity continues in that step. It's not just an assembly process.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like you're having another creative mind look at your project. And so, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially when, even if, I'd like to think that people value my creative opinion. But, whoever edits my scene, whether it's Davis or Grayson, I trust their creative decisions. And also, if they end up cutting out a lot of my stuff, I'd rather have them do that than me. I feel like when I'm, working on my own stuff, it's like cutting off my own hand whenever I have to like cut out something that I really love. But I feel like that'd be like such a burden lifted on me if I gave it to like Davis and he cut out, like half of my scene and he was just like, it didn't work. And I'd be like, well, okay, at least I didn't have to do it. At least I didn't like have to stare at it for an hour and try to figure it out. And so, yeah, even if I wasn't one of the editors, I'd be totally happy with giving it to somebody else.
But I've also tried to stress that they have the attitude that this is a game. This is not the only film they're ever going to make. It's not the last film they're ever going to make. It's probably not even the best film they're ever going to make, right? And so to be able to just enjoy the process and see what other people do with your stuff, is part of the fun of it. It is about play. So execute your ideas, do your best to get what you want out of this, but also be willing to sort of let go of it so that it's not too painful.
No, that's a very fun way to look at it.
It's a little scary, but it's a little like it's a little like walking in the dark without a light, sort of. But at the same time, it's really exciting. It's like, oh, I get to hand off my stuff to this person and then have them have their like creativity influence it and sort of give it life that I hadn't thought of. So yes. I'm excited for it.
Brian, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was like the hardest part of like selecting all the scripts that you got, or like what was the process like?
Well, I wasn't sure what response was going to be, and so actually we're using almost everybody that submitted something.
Oh.
We only had one person to sort of decide they didn't have time to do it, and so if we had ended up with more people, we probably would have done fewer scenes. We had just enough people so everybody could do 3 scenes, and it makes about a 90-minute film.
Okay.
If we'd had more people, probably just 2 scenes, But this is good. It's a good number.
Oh, okay, that's fun. What was the hardest part so far that you find in like the middle of this process?
The hardest part for me usually is the communication, and by that I mean like communicating with cast and crew, getting schedules lined up, because this doesn't like trump everything else that happens like at UNA. Like this this is just like another thing. Like it's a big thing. It's a great thing, but it's just another thing that we have to do outside of school. Students, we have obligations to, pass and take care of ourselves and make good grades and, have other lives outside of, academia. So the hardest part for me is, trying to get everybody's availability and schedules and see when we can do this, but also not push everybody to like the very extent and have these like insane 12-hour days where we're just doing nothing but shooting because we have to get this done. There is that sense of urgency, but nothing to me is more important than, taking care of yourself. And when you're scheduling actors and when you're trying to make schedules for everybody, that's something that you have to, take into account. And pretty much what I'm saying is life happens and you got to respect that.
Yeah.
It's like taking another class.
Yeah.
I would say it's like putting
Exactly.
another like full-time job on top of being a full-time student.
Yeah, this is basically just Elements 2, This is my Elements 2 class.
I think this is probably a lot more work than Elements too.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the hardest part is for sure the scheduling, especially, when you're friends with people in this department, you know how busy that they can get, and you know how many lines they have to memorize, or how many nights they have to spend in rehearsal, or whatever else. And so it can be hard to ask them to, rehearse and, to show up to like a really long film set, for you. That can be really difficult. And also just staying organized is something I'm not great at. Planning out a film shoot like extensively so that, your film shoots, they don't feel chaotic. There's like a structure to them. Nobody feels lost. Nobody feels tired. I mean, people are still going to feel tired, but nobody like feels like you're just walking around like a chicken with its head cut off, You really have to kind of be on top of things. And so that's what the most difficult part is for me.
It's definitely the scheduling. Scheduling is honestly so far been the hardest part because you've got so many working pieces. You've got crew to juggle, and then you've also got your cast, and you've got the realization that the people that are in your scenes are being used by other people, the other directors as well for theirs, and there's and these people have lives. They have school, and they have they have commitments. They have jobs. Some of them, and in between all that, they also have to relax and eat sometimes.
Breathe.
Take maybe 7 hours sleep. That's good. So finding windows where you can get all of your people together is really difficult sometimes. I think I've sent more emails in this past month than I have in a really. I may have sent more emails than I have. I think I've sent more emails this month than I have
Ever.
last semester. Yeah, it's a lot.
And and it's hard because like in a way they rely on you. Oh, I don't like that. I like whenever you're writing, you can be as sloppy as you want, and it's like all on you, But like you rely on other people, and like they, need to rely on you to communicate to them efficiently and to like respond to them relatively quickly. And I need to get better at that, but I don't like it. It's
Acting
not fun.
is easy. You just have the one role to take care of.
Yeah, and you
just worry about your part.
Yeah, and if somebody gives you your lines and they're like, hey, I just need you to memorize these lines by next week, you're like, all right, great. You don't have to set up a schedule. You don't have to do it. You can just show up to the rehearsals, or if it's a film shoot, you can do like one read through with them and then just memorize it on your own. You can do nothing and then memorize them all in one night instead of sleeping. And it's great, but for a film shoot, you can't do that. You can't, you can't stay up late and film something the day before, like a project is due. You can't do that. There's like pretty much no way you can like cheat in a film class, which is a good thing and a bad thing. And so,
well, the other reason it's such hard work is because they're doing it right. They're doing what's necessary, and they're actually going through the process like they should be. So that's good. I'm glad.
yeah, McHenry made us eat our filmmaking broccoli last year. Oh, I hated making shot
Intermediate
lists.
production.
Yeah.
It's okay. Now I love broccoli though, so it's
Yeah.
great.
Lily's
good
in that
for
class
you.
now, so.
I'm in that class now.
Oh, but it is really
Eat the broccoli.
eat the
Promise.
broccoli. It's
I'll eat my greens.
yeah. But before I was in that class, I would shoot every single film of mine chronologically, and I would kind of pick the shots like on the spot. And so there'd be a lot of moments where people would just be standing around when I was holding the camera, and I was like, let me see what I want to get next. But in McHenry's class, we learned that you're supposed to schedule every single shot throughout the entire thing, and it'll literally tell you when you're supposed to start and when you're supposed to end. And it was so annoying. Oh, but it's so useful now. I'm so glad I learned it.
You can squeeze more in. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's macabre, Trevor. Macabre.
I know you guys done a lot of short films because we do a lot of short films all the time, but have you done any feature-length films before, or is like this your very first one?
I've helped on a few departmental things, a couple things that Michael Curtis Johnson's done, and a couple things that Brian, of course, has done. But feature length, this is probably my first thing from a director's standpoint that I've gotten to do.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, I acted in one of Mike's films that he shot last semester. But I think it's like just shy of being feature length. I guess I helped a little bit on Shape Notes. I don't know if that's feature length or not. It's not. Okay.
It's a short film, but it is a study for a feature. So I'm exploring the characters that might turn into a feature film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I helped on one day for a short film that might turn into a feature. So IMDb page. There we go. And yeah, this is the only directing role, and pretty much I guess the only role I've had that's a feature length role.
I also helped out on the same feature-length film that was shot last semester by Michael Curtis Johnson. I haven't been a director for anything but my own short films, and they were really rudimentary, I'll say.
How many short films? I mean, how many feature-length films have you done?
Because I've done several in different roles. And so I've written 1, 2, 3 complete feature-length scripts. I have like 2 in progress that I've written. I have done animation and motion graphics for 1, 2, 3, 4 feature-length films. I shot one in Chicago. And then I've done I did a lot of industrial videos, like training videos and stuff like that. So some of that stuff was like collections of like 3-hour-long training videos and stuff. So
You're a pro. You got it under your belt. Is there anything that you can share with us before we end the podcast? I don't know what you're allowed to, but is there any thing that you want to share or you can share?
Let's see. If you like comedy, you'll enjoy it. If you like drama and sadness, you'll also probably enjoy it. And if you like sci-fi, you'll probably enjoy it too. So there's something for everybody. I think it's very vast as far as genres go, which is a very sort of difficult thing to write sometimes, but I think it is also pretty cool.
you get all that and a mime.
Yeah.
And a mime.
And he's in multiple of those genres, so that's crazy.
Yeah, as this film has kind of come together, I guess the way I viewed it is that there's kind of like 2 main story threads that are going on, almost 3, and it's intertwined by these 2 comedic characters, and there's kind of there's mostly a funnier side, a funny and weird side of the movie, and then there's one that's a little bit more touching and heartfelt, and so it's kind of like this weird hodgepodge thing that's, I guess it's like, humans being humans. And so if you like really weird experiences that also have a little bit of heart to them, I think you'll enjoy this film.
I really don't know what else to add. There are sad moments. There are definitely comedic moments. There is a mime, and there's sci-fi, and it all just kind of weaves together into this one story. And I don't know how much else I should say. So
We can leave it mysterious. Are we gonna have like a department screening?
That is the plan. Yes, we're trying to get it scheduled around the one acts and senior night and all that kind of stuff. But the plan is to get it done this semester.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited to see what all of you guys have planned. To end out an episode, we always do a fizzle down, feel good. And that's where you tell us one good thing that happened to you this week. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. It can be very simple as getting a good parking spot.
I'll start. About 2 hours ago, I had a really, really good lunch at a restaurant in downtown Florence called Cypress Row. It is relatively new. I think I hadn't heard of it till this week. But if anyone's listening and you want a good chicken sandwich, that you should go check it out. It's a really good restaurant.
Me and my girlfriend Chloe recently hit our 1 year anniversary.
Congratulations.
And we're going out tonight.
Aw.
I had lunch with my mother yesterday. She was in town, and we went to a cafe, and I had a sandwich and some coffee and a croissant. So
It sounded so poetic when you said that.
That sounds wonderful. I started playing a new video game called Coral Island, and I'm obsessed with it, and it's been the highlight of my week.
We have been working for many, many months, 6-8 months, to clean out my dad's house. And so we just had a big estate sale over the weekend and got rid of a lot of stuff. Made a little bit of money on top of that. So that was nice to finally get that task done.
And I have a nice new side table now.
I have a nice little monkey puppet. Well, my girlfriend got a monkey puppet.
I'm sad because I found this out the day after it happened. I really wanted to go, so I missed
It
out.
was great estate
Nothing
sale.
left. It's all gone.
Would you like to know what we named the monkey?
What did you name the monkey?
Bryan McMonkey.
Well, I don't have any children. So I'm glad to know I have.
Yeah, someone to pass out his name to. Well, I want to thank you all very much for joining me on this podcast, and hopefully I get to have you on again and hopefully talk more about you and your mysterious past of doing everything. Who knows? You just have to find out. Thank you all for listening and or watching, and I will see you the next time, and hopefully you will see all these people again. Bye!
Bye!